challenges, in our opinion, seem to have overwhelmed our security institutions.
The governors are supposed to be the state security officers of their state.
There is need for us to at least engage the traditional rulers.
We need to do something about our porous borders.
We have to own it from the unit level to the ward level to the local government to state.
Mr. President, the importance of today for us is for us to take action.
Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
The Senate resumed from the Easter and Sallah breaks on Tuesday, the 2nd of May 2023. On resumption, it considered very important matters that affect the Nigerian system. Some of those matters include the request from Mr. President on the Ways and Means advances, the 2023 budget of the NDDC, amongst other matters. The Senate also considered some bills at second reading, while also attending to letters from the President seeking confirmation of nominees into various positions. The program ends with a report from the committee room. I am Hussaina Amina Aboki. Stay tuned for the details after the short break.
The Senate to send a message to the President
to reap opportunities from that.
To raise a matter of urgent public importance.
And we are aware that when this particular motion comes up,
for a longer term development, arise to second the motion.
Those in favor of this prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
Thanks for being with us. One of the matters discussed at plenary on Wednesday, the 3rd of May 2023, was the report of the Special Committee on the Ways and Means advances presented to the Senate by President Buhari on Wednesday, the 21st of December 2022. The amount involved stands at about 22.719 trillion naira advanced by the CBN for infrastructural development, amongst other things. Senate leader and chairman of the special committee which investigated the request gave their recommendations, which mostly border on loans recovery.
The federal government should begin the process of recovering the portion of Ways and Means given as loans to the state governments. As further deferment of the payment of the loans by the states will not be healthy for the economy. That the federal government, through the Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning, should expedite action on the repayment of loans through treasury bills and the bond issuances.
The report was considered in the Committee of the Whole and approved, after which the Senate President commented.
Ways and Means is not peculiar to our country. The National Assembly is always there to consider the request of the executive in the national interest. And I don't see any National Assembly standing against any infrastructural development, building roads, bridges, and so on and so forth. So it is very, very important that the executive, before they incur this kind of huge Ways and Means, they should, in fact, it's a must that they seek the approval of the National Assembly.
No budget for 2021 was passed.
The 2023 budget proposal of the Niger Delta Development Commission was listed for consideration same day. However, Senator Siriaki Dixon, alongside others, came under matters of privileges to oppose it with the following reasons.
No budget for 2021 was passed. No budget for 2022 was passed. And now before us, there is a so-called consolidation budget to consolidate 2021, 2022, and of course this year. In other words, this estimate that is before you, no member of that committee can claim that he or she knows the details of the budgets we are here to consider. I believe that if we step it down for today, there is still time enough for all of that to be done, so that by next week, subject to the convenience of this, we can do justice to it.
I totally align
with what Senator Dixon said. I think we should step it down.
Accordingly, the planned consideration was stepped down. The Senate also considered the predicament in which the former Deputy Senate President, Senator Ike Ekweremadu, is presently enmeshed in over allegations of organ harvesting. A motion under matters of privilege was moved by the Minority Whip, Senator Chukwuka Utazi.
Whereas the trial of Senator Ike Ekweremadu, wife Nwaneka, and middleman Dr. Obinna Obeta has been concluded by a panel of jurors, returning a verdict of conviction for the aforementioned suspects in the case of the kidney organ harvesting allegation involving an 21-year-old complainant. And considering that Ekweremadu was ignorant, that seeking out kidney donors was a crime in the United Kingdom, even applied to the British High Commission in Abuja for a grant of travel visa to the alleged donor, clearly stating in writing the purpose for the travel visa. Whereas this Senate is not arguing the conviction of the Ekweremadus, as ignorance of the law is no excuse, but were forced into these circumstances in their bid to save a dying daughter, Sonia. Whereas this Senate is not in any way appealing against the conviction of the Ekweremadus, nevertheless, it is joining them in their allocutus plea by asking for clemency in the coming sentencing 2 days away.
The Senate President also joined in the plea, calling on the British authorities to temper justice with mercy.
I have written a letter to the British judicial officers or judicial authorities about 2-3 weeks ago, seeking for clemency, history of Senator Ekweremadu, and that I did on behalf of the Senate. I signed the letter and was also delivered to the judicial authorities in the UK. And we are now using this particular intervention to seek for clemency in the sentencing. Let me conclude by seeking tempering justice with mercy by the British judicial authorities, that when it comes to the sentencing, it should be considered that this is the first time ever that the distinguished Senator Ekweremadu will be facing this kind of situation.
In spite of this, however, the Old Bailey Court went ahead to hand down a jail term of 10 years on Senator Ike Ekweremadu. Those were some reports from the plenary of last week. We will now open our notebook segment for our subject of the week. Keep watching.
A public hearing is an interactive session organized by legislative committees on any subject matter for the purpose of sharing ideas, x-raying issues, and resolving conflicts around the subject matter. The matter could be a proposed bill that has scaled second reading or a motion referred to the committees for more legislative action. Interested members of the public along with stakeholders may participate in the public hearings, at the end of which reports are compiled by the committees and submitted to the Senate for necessary action.
Welcome back from that timeout. Still from plenary of last week, some bills were presented for second reading precisely on Tuesday, the 2nd of May 2023. One of these was the National Council for Christian Education Establishment Bill 2023, sponsored by Senator Binos Dodayaro. Let's take a report on this as compiled and presented from our studio.
The bill intends to establish a regulatory body that will set standards.
In a synopsis, the sponsor stated that the council, when established, will, amongst other things, regulate and set standards for Christian education in Nigeria.
The bill, when passed into law, will ensure uniform regulation across various Christian denominations, as opposed to the present practice, where there are various standards, rules, and regulatory bodies. It will also set standards and regulate the balance between Christian faith and academic excellence for parents to choose which schools they will send their children to, with the assurance of good standards and quality service based on the overstretched curriculum in the government or private schools.
The presentation attracted the following comments.
Religion wrongly applied and practiced is what has polarized our nation and breed extremism and hate. But rightly understood and practiced, religion can be a source of strength and national cohesion. For religion to be rightly understood, Mr. President and colleagues, it has to be rightly taught. This is where the place of a commission that will develop curriculum and provide standards for Christian education is very necessary. This bill is therefore seeking the consent of the Senate to establish a National Council for Christian Education in Nigeria, and I urge our colleagues to support its passage on second reading.
There is no gainsaying that part of the problems that we have in the Northeast and many parts of Nigeria today stem from inappropriate explanation of the Bible and the Quran. And that is why many frustrated youths have become ready tools in the hands of leaders of the Boko Haram in the Northeast, who have constituted themselves now into kidnappers, abductors, and all manner of crimes in the country. I therefore support this bill to be read a second time, Mr. President, to provide a regulatory platform for our moral education in our educational institutions.
The bill scaled second reading and was referred to the Committee on Education, Basic and Secondary to report back in 4 weeks.
In a digital society,
also considered was an executive bill titled Data Protection Commission Establishment Bill 2023 and presented by the Senate leader, who disclosed that it seeks, among other things, to provide a legal framework for protection of personal information as well as regulation of the processing of personal information.
the bill also aims to balance the right to privacy against the other rights, particularly the right of access to information and to generally protect important interests, including the free flow of information within and across the borders of Nigeria. This bill sets out to provide for matters which are important, to provide a framework of certainty, fairness, and sanctions related to the data that are consistent with a just and democratic society like Nigeria.
With this, the bill was referred to the Committee on ICT and Cybersecurity to report back in 4 weeks.
Mr. President, distinguished senators.
A letter from President Muhammadu Buhari on the same day sought Senate consideration and passage of the amended Financial Bill 2022 to support the implementation of the 2023 budget. According to the letter, the bill's objectives, amongst others, is to enhance tax equity by bringing more economic sectors into the nation's tax net and ensure fairer distribution of revenue receipts to all tiers of government. Support job creation through sustained partnership with international development finance institutions and other multilateral agencies, as well as increase funding for education through Tertiary Education Trust Fund, TETFund.
I write forward the name of Honorable Dr. Abike Dabiri Erewa.
In another letter, President Buhari sought Senate approval for the reappointment of Honorable Abike Dabiri Erewa as Chairman, Nigerians in Diaspora Commission for a second and final term.
The issue of constitutional amendment also came up, with the committee chairman and deputy Senate president disclosing that Sokoto State House of Assembly has forwarded its resolution on Constitution 5th Alteration Bill 2023 on the uniform retirement age for judicial officers. The request was tabled, the notion titled Passage of the Constitution 5th Alteration Bill number 20, Uniform Retirement Age for Judicial Officers 2023.
With the approval of Sokoto State House of Assembly, the Constitution 5th Alteration Bill number 20, the uniform retirement age for judicial officers, has now met the provisions of Section 9, Subsection 2 of the Constitution for passage. Accordingly,
it was resolved to direct the Clerk of the National Assembly to transmit the bill to President Muhammadu Buhari for his assent. Meanwhile, Senator Uche Okunife came under matters of urgent public importance to complain about the delay in the issuance of Nigerian passport by the Nigerian Immigration Service.
The delay in issuance and renewal of the Nigerian international passport by the Nigerian Immigration Service nationwide has caused untold hardships for the Nigerians who need to travel out of the country or return to the country. Those who want their passport renewed spend between 3 to 6 months processing their international passport applications at the offices of the Nigerian Immigration Services and Nigerian embassies outside the country.
The resolutions adopted on the motion were: urge the Senate Committee on Interior to investigate the delay in the issuance of Nigerian passports by the Nigerian Immigration Service, as well as investigate the printing process of the Nigerian passport by the Nigerian Immigration Service. One of the highlights of plenary last week was the announcement that Senator Muhammad Adamu Bulkachua has clocked 83. All the senators rose up to felicitate with the octogenarian lawmaker. Senate President Ahmed Lawan gave these prayers.
We pray that God Almighty grant him good health and long life, so that we'll continue to tap from his wise counsel. Once again, congratulations on this milestone age.
Meanwhile, in the committee room on Thursday, the 4th of May 2023, the Committee on Power interacted with some stakeholders in the nation's electricity sector. While kickstarting the meeting, the committee chairman sought information about the concessioning of Zungeru Hydroelectric Power Plant, to which the minister responded.
On the issue of the concessioning, which is ongoing, it was concluded that we should slow down the processes and then carry everybody along in terms of clarity of what is being done at the NCP, the National Council on Privatization.
The chairman and a committee member commented.
All we want is that government should not be shortchanged. We should be sure that 700 megawatts that the plant has is what exactly we have. Now it has been tested because the line has been completed and is being connected to the switchyard.
The general public is very much against outright sale of public assets, particularly when these assets are brand new. It is better we concession them. The government still has lien on it. That is, ownership is still with the government. And if there is any default, government can revoke, that concession.
The managing director of the Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN, was also on ground to explain why Kano and Kaduna were recently disconnected from electricity supply.
There is always that clause that DISCOs must pay 100% of their invoices. But this is not happening. If we allow it like that, it will reach a stage whereby we cannot even run TCN because we don't have any money from the government to pay for our salaries and other expenditures. We depend on what we get from the market. So it reached a situation whereby these people are not paying. We cannot use the guarantee. The only option for us is to disconnect them. And this is what we did, sir.
At the end, the committee chairman advocated that both the ministry and other electricity stakeholders should embark on sensitization of the populace on the importance of settling bills. Outside the National Assembly, the Senate Committee on Education, Basic and Secondary, on Tuesday, the 2nd of May 2023, was on oversight duty at the headquarters of the Federal Ministry of Education. The report is compiled and presented from our studio.
On arrival at the ministry, committee members led by the vice chairman of the committee, Senator Akon Enya Kenyi, were ushered into the boardroom where the vice chairman disclosed one of the purposes of the visit has been to follow up on the performance of the ministry's 2022 budget.
We are visiting the Federal Ministry of Education on our official oversight responsibility assigned to the committee of overseeing the implementation of the appropriation given to the ministry for the year 2022. The 2022 is supposed to end by June 31st, while 2023, with the availability of resources, you can, or you're expected to start.
Responding, the State Minister for Education, who represented the minister, Malam Adamu expressed delight at the achievement recorded by the capital component of the 2022 budget.
The 2022 education sector capital budget settled many issues such as the omission of the newly established institutions and the distortion of the main ministry's budget. The ministry is grateful to the National Assembly for their intervention after their attention was drawn to it in the course of the 2022 budget defense of the sector.
The ministry's Director of Basic Education in her submissions spoke on their efforts to reduce the number of out-of-school children from 10.3 million before COVID-19.
But from that 10.3 figure that we had in 2018, through BESDA, we have over 5.7 children who have been enrolled. Yes, 5.7 million children have been enrolled. And aside that, the ministry has also carried out massive identification and enrollment intervention in the states. In the 6th geopolitical zone, every year the ministry embarks on national campaign to ensure that children are enrolled.
Committee members in their submissions spoke in favor of establishing libraries at foundation education level, as well as engagement of qualified teachers in Nigerian schools.
We're talking about a national library, but there's no way we can get education right in our country without foundational education. And we're not asking for too much. Classroom libraries, simple thing, just to get our primary 1 and 2 to understand the importance of reading, taking books back to their parents or their relatives so that these books could be read to them and coming back into the classroom. It's just a process, and I think that we ought to take it a little seriously.
The more you enroll, the more you have the need for teachers. What we have today is from the few statistics available, most schools do not have the required teachers.
So if we must build a solid foundation, we must be sure we have enough teachers to teach, and not just teachers but qualified teachers.
The visit ended with a word of advice to the ministry to cooperate with the incoming legislature.
Honorable Minister, Permanent Secretary, I want to once again say well done. We are happy. Keep up the spirit. The 10th Assembly coming in will expect you to extend the same hand of good working relationship to them.
Up next is our profile segment. Stand by for our Senator of the Week.
Senator Cleopas Moses was born on the 19th of November 1972. He represents Bayelsa Central Senatorial District under PDP. He attended primary and secondary schools in Koluoma in Bayelsa State, where his first school leaving certificates and West African School certificate was respective. At the tertiary level, Senator Cleopas Moses attended Rivers State University of Science and Technology, Port Harcourt, for a Bachelor of Science degree in Secretarial Administration. He also attended the Niger Delta University, Amasoma, for a master's degree in management. He joined politics and won a by-election to the Senate held on the 5th of December 2020 to replace Senator Diri Duoye as a result of a vacuum created by his elevation to the position of Governor of Bayelsa State. His legislative interests include maritime security, education, and agriculture.
us to the end of this week's episode of Inside the Senate. Join us next week for another edition, and thanks for watching.